I'm Alan Beresford, I'm Managing Director of EcoCooling. Today we're at Data Center World Exhibition, where the latest technologies in data centers are being exhibited. We're here because we're showing people how we approach a completely different way to cooling data centers, a way that we use fresh air and evaporative cooling to reduce the cooling bills by over 90%. Why is that important? Data centers use 5% of the Western world's electricity. Half of that goes into cooling them. We can reduce that by 90 to 95%. You're now going to see clients who've used our equipment in multiple projects, both as new installations and retrofits, and have had very successful energy-saving projects, reducing their carbon footprints.
I'm David Buckle, I'm the Managing Director of M247 Limited. And we own a data centre in Manchester, and the objective that we had was to make it as efficient as possible and as green as possible.
Hi there, my name is Jack Bedell-Pierce. I'm the Commercial Operations Director at 4D Data Centres. We had two projects with EcoCooling over the last year. The first was to install a single unit within our UPS and switchgear room, and the second one was to install 12 units in our main data floor area.
My name's David Green. I'm from the University of Cambridge's Department of Engineering. We had a project basically based in the Department of Engineering to update the cooling provision in our data centres. We have two data centres. Equipment in those are used to support the department's extensive teaching and research activities. The introduction by the University of an electricity incentivisation scheme has also led us to look at our costs. And we could see from the baseline consumption within the department that a significant part of that electricity consumption was being used by our data centre.
My name's Matt Seaton and I am the Senior Manager at NetWise Hosting.
Hi, my name is Matthew Butt and I'm the Managing Director at NetWise Hosting. The main objectives for us was to consider both the capital and operational costs in running a new cooling system at our data centre built last year in Sutton in South London. We had several issues with retrofitting an existing building with a cooling system, and both of the costs were a primary aspect we had to take into consideration.
And I deal primarily with our customer-facing activities, so being green is not only very important for reducing our carbon footprint, but also for passing those benefits on to our end customers.
EcoCooling was one of a few vendors in the UK that were offering genuine solutions for adiabatic cooling. We'd identified that as our preferred solution to retrofit into our existing data centre, and having met the people and spoken to the installers, they just seemed like the best fit for us.
What I wanted was a cooling system that was much cheaper to run than air conditioning, that was reliable, that would enable our customers to have confidence that we could provide them with their computers being online and cooled 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, in any weather conditions.
We spent many months investigating both traditional refrigerant-based systems and the new EcoCooling version. And it came clear quite early on that EcoCooling would be the way we'd like to go forwards, both with relatively minimal outlay at the start of the project. This being our first data centre built just last year. It's got capacity for just over 600 servers, and we had to take into consideration the costs outlay at the start and ongoing operational costs.
EcoCooling, of all the companies we approached, had perhaps the best track record in terms of case studies with other companies involved in our industry, which is something that we were keen to get on board with. They also had fantastic flexibility in tailoring the system to fit our existing infrastructure.
We looked at three options of cooling in our data centres, looking at essentially cost payback over a period of time, the typical savings that we'd get, and the reduction in carbon. Our preferred choice from going through that process was that the EcoCooling system offered a much reduced payback period and reduced running costs.
So the underlying brief for us was for an EcoCooling system to fit our facility, which was designed to house 600 servers, or around about 600 servers, in a 20-rack facility.
This was coupled with a design for a hot aisle system to keep both cool air and hot air separate to increase the efficiency of our facility.
We had an extraction system bolted onto that to handle the airflow for us.
We actually approached the work in a slightly different way. We didn't approach EcoCooling direct. We tendered the work out to a contractor and specified in that tender that we wanted the contractor to use the EcoCooling system. It was installed by a local contractor following a tender process, but EcoCooling were very supportive of us in actually getting the system installed correctly and getting it working.
We had two briefs. The first was to retrofit a single unit into our UPS room to replace three ceiling-mounted air conditioning units. That was to cool our UPS and switchgear room. The second brief was to retrofit 12 units into our main data floor. That was to replace 6 traditional downflow units.
Part of our in-house design enclosed a hot aisle containment system. To achieve high efficiency, we needed to keep separate our hot air and our cold air. And part of this design we had to pass on to EcoCooling, who put together a tailored solution to extract our hot air and keep both cold and hot separate at all times.
And the fantastic thing about that is we now have a PUE of just 1.15, which is actually now one of the lowest in Europe.
Our installation was particularly difficult because it was a retrofit installation. We didn't have a very deep floor void under the floor where the cooling had to be forced through narrow gaps, which provided some challenges. Initially, our installation was powered by fans in the eco coolers alone, but subsequently, as the installation evolved, we changed the fan configuration to have more powerful fans and also introduced extractor fans to help force the air through the narrow floor void.
The installation went extremely smoothly. We worked very closely with EcoCooling over about 4 or 5 months to look at the planning and also the project implementation. The process itself was extremely smooth. The installers worked with us very closely throughout the installation, and they even swept up afterwards. They helped us afterwards with all of the post-commissioning stuff as well, so generally very happy indeed.
The installation that we have in the Department of Engineering was actually quite unique at the time when it was installed, and we worked very closely with EcoCooling to develop that design and to install that in an optimal way. We're also particularly interested in the technology and the way it was installed because it's actually linked also to some of our teaching research activities in the Department of Engineering, which are based around energy and emissions.
One of the nice little bonuses that we had as project managers was really getting on well with the installers, from both duct installers right down to system configuration. It just makes all the difference really on site when you get on with the people you're working with.
Although it's early days, we've been running so far for 4 months on free cooling. No water has been needed, purely outside air coming on intelligently, and combined with our hot aisle extraction, it's working very well.
The system was installed and became operational. The first installation became operational in December 2010. So we've had a full year of the system being used, and during 2011 we've seen savings of 200 tonnes of carbon over that period, and in terms of cash, a reduction in electricity consumption of £40,000.
We saw an immediate reduction in PUE from 1.6 to just below 1.2, which provided us with a saving of 1,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide per year and an electricity saving of approximately £6,000 per month from day one.
From the very outset on the project, it was evident that from order, when we first placed the order, the lead time on the equipment was exceedingly short compared with competitors.
The installers were actually only on site for 1 week. We had our builders install power and water for them. Once they were on site, it was 1 week and then 2 weeks for testing and configuration, which was great.
This compared with a competitor's system under half of the time.
The system has fully met our expectations. It has been running for just shy of 2 years and has never failed.
The system has satisfied the requirements. It met the objectives that were in the feasibility study that we carried out at the start, to the extent that we've, towards the end of 2011, we then commissioned another contractor to change the cooling in our second data centre, which was completed just before Christmas.
When we first approached EcoCooling and looked at the CREC units, we were obviously a little bit sceptical because not many people in the UK had actually tried this relatively new technology. We did an installation for a year, which we tested, and we made sure it worked. And then we decided to take the plunge with a much larger and mission-critical installation of the 12 units. As it happens, we've now been running that system for over 4 months. It's more than met our expectations, and we're very, very happy with it. I think one of the key benefits that we perhaps didn't calculate before the installation, but we're now actually seeing that now they're running, is that during particularly hot days, the CREC units are actually performing much better than our old CRAC units. It's very rare, I know, in the UK for the temperature to go above 30 degrees, but on the rare occasions that it does, we sometimes had to be outside with our old CRAC units with the sprinklers and the hose. With the CREC units, they actually perform better than in very hot and arid conditions. So, like I said, the days that has been particularly hot, they've more than met our expectations.
I think in terms of putting the message out within an educational department, people are very clear within the department. We've communicated it that there is basically significant savings. The benefit there has been that people within the department have been more aware of energy, more interested in actually reducing costs and reducing emissions. Our computing staff have really on board with us with this in terms of specifying equipment that is perhaps a little bit more expensive but has reduced energy consumption. We've also had collaborations with other higher educational establishments within the UK and told them our story, and they have been interested in that, and I think several of them have actually gone forward and installed cooling systems similar to we have at Cambridge.
We've had no shocks, and I think that's more important.
You will now have heard from our clients who have implemented projects using the EcoCooling CREC system, this patented approach to cooling data centres using fresh air and evaporative cooling. These guys are pleased with the results, they're pleased with the financial performance, they're pleased with their reduction in carbon footprint and their power management. Hopefully this will be of interest to you, and please feel free to contact us on our website www.ecocooling.org.